question. From the time you were 2 till you were 18, what percentage of your life, excuse me, did you spend in school? From 2 to 18, what percentage of your life did you spend in school? 75, anybody else? 80? Less than 10. Even if you had an 8-hour day at school, that's 33%. Take off Saturday, Sunday, vacation, holidays, sick days. You actually spent less than 10% of your life from 2 to 18 in school. Our job in early childhood, that's why one of the required courses in California is the homeschool community, is to educate parents. Even if they're doctors, lawyers, nuclear physicists, they don't know what we know about early childhood and child development. Our job is to educate the parents. And if they don't know about birthday parties and what it feels like to not be included, imagine a parent of a child who has special needs, right? Sensory needs, he's always hitting or biting. That kid's never invited to a birthday party. Imagine how ostracized, how alienated that family might feel. So if you think about enrollment and all of those things, right? One of the biggest issues in enrollment is people will go where their friends go. And if they have no friends, they will leave you. So make sure that everything at your center reflects your vision and what you really want to have happen in your world. Am I going too fast? I'm good, right? Okay. Thank you. There you go. So, the other part of this is that you have to communicate your vision differently, but effectively. And what do I mean by that? In early childhood and in psychology, there is something called theory of mind. Theory of mind is that I am looking out in a sea of faces right now. If I were to say, I'm going to teach you all a math problem now, some of you might get it the way I teach it. Some of you will be, oh my gosh, I don't know what she's talking about. Some of you would get it if I taught it a different way. Theory of mind dictates that I have to see you where you are, understand how you take in information, and tell it to you in a certain way. So for example, and we all know this, there are teachers, I'm going to use a microphone because my voice is going. There are teachers who will do whatever their co-teacher does. They will follow whatever their teammates do. They're not really the visionary employees, they are the good, hard-working bees. And so what you have to do first in those situations is you have to go first to the visionary one and hold them close and say, I have a proposition for you. I was thinking of making a change. I want to get your buy-in first. Give that person ownership. Because then if they help you plan it, guess what they're going to do with the worker bees that work in their classroom? Oh my gosh, you have to try this. If you go to the worker bee first, the one that's the higher up, the higher level teacher will feel slighted, and they will reject any and all changes that you try to implement. So you have to know your people, and you have to know how to approach them and work with them the right way. Okay, number 2. This is probably equally important. Have a winged person. So, you know, Lucy had Ethel, Moses had Aaron. I mean, in life, we never see superheroes who don't have a winged person. And I don't mean somebody who is your assistant director who you shove the papers to and you simply tell them to fill out the stuff that you don't want to get done. I'm talking about the person who will challenge your authority. Respectfully, appropriately, but they will challenge your authority. I have been blessed. I cannot even tell you how blessed I have been in my life to have had the most amazing winged people in my life, both in my early childhood career in the preschool, as well as in the university. At the early childhood, at the preschool, it was a woman named Avital, who I could not have lived without, and she now runs the preschool in my place. And in the university, it's a woman named Sharon. I gotta tell you, I feel a little attacked sometimes because I'm a bossy bee. I am. I'm also someone who's a little egotistical and like, I know this stuff. But having somebody who I respect and who feels comfortable enough to challenge me, those are the kinds of people that actually are able to do the things, and for me to be able to accomplish the things that I've accomplished in life, because without them, I probably would have been 50% of what I am today. And I still have a long way to go, trust me. That's why I still surround myself with them. In fact, both of them are sharing a room with me here in the hotel because I can't live without them. So ask yourself then, do you have that person in your life? And if you don't, how can you either nurture one or find one? And how do you give them the latitude, the freedom to say something to you, because they'll never challenge your authority if they think it's going to get them fired or if they think you're going to put them down. Because none of us wants to feel yucky. So you have to be able to recognize and acknowledge and then celebrate when they challenge you, even to the point of saying things like, you know, I felt really bad when you challenged what I wanted to do. I got to tell you, it was hard knocks. But now looking back, I just want to thank you because together we're better. Have you heard of the word interdependence? That's what it is. So, how do you assess yourself? And again, can you guys give out there you go. So, I will tell you about these people later and why they're here, but they're going to give you out a flyer if you don't scan at the end. The QR code, whatever you want, you'll be able to request from that QR code. And everything I'm showing you today, you don't have to take pictures. We will send you the hard copies. Like, not the hard copies, the digital copies. So, assessing your leadership. When I was in my doctoral program at USC, I had an amazing professor. His name is Dr. David Marsh. I have to give credit because I did not invent this stuff. But he taught me about something called horizontal leadership. In most organizations, you have the CEO or the director, and there's a flow chart, right, the organizational chart, and the director sits at the top, and everybody is under. For those of you that are under, how does that feel? Right? How many of you would like to be sideways? I'd like to be able to tell you what I think. I've heard from so many directors, oh my God, the owner is not spending the money the way it should be spent. Or the owner is that she just doesn't understand that our ratios don't work. Or he just doesn't understand that he spends so much money on that stupid playground and we don't have, the proper equipment to wash hands or things like that. So horizontal leadership is where there is shared decision making. That's hard. It's a lot easier to just say, we're buying this. We went to the exhibit hall, we went to Lakeshore, and this is what I'm buying. It's a lot more challenging to say, 5 of my staff are here, and instead of me spending $5,000 today, I'm going to give each one of them carte blanche to spend $1,000 the way they see fit for our child care center. But I don't want them to just go on their own. So how about if I give them the money on Friday and Thursday night I'll take them all to dinner and tell them my plan and let's strategize how to best use that money. Right now we have this conversation happening, so it takes longer than just going up to Lakeshore and spending $5,000, but it also gets buy-in and ownership. And I'll say this several times today, owners care much more than renters about the apartments that they live in. Owners, right? Renters, if the water's leaking and you leave, well, the owner's not going to fix it till next Wednesday. I don't care. I'm not paying the water bill. But if you're an owner, you care. And you're going to fix it right away. By the way, there's a scoring system for this, so you'll get a copy of the whole thing and how to score it and what it means. And then you can have, she's in here somewhere. There she is! You can have other kinds of wing people as well who are ad hoc. They are your wing people for something. Lindsay Astor Grant, oh my gosh. She is a pediatric OT extraordinaire. And her and I actually go around the country. And we met at an NAUIC conference last year. And we hit it off like you cannot imagine. And we said, oh my God, let's go around, because she speaks separately and I speak separately, and remember, interdependence. So we got together and we do this amazing thing called finding the right pitch. Really better at the beginning of a school year to set up your learning environment to decrease challenging behaviors. And we have been on the road, and I love you. She's not staying in my room tonight, but she could. And remember that none of us is as smart as all of us. You already know that, that's why you're here. That's why you're at this conference, because you are here hoping, probably like I do, that every workshop you go into, you at least get one golden nugget. If I can get one golden nugget at every workshop that I go into, I came here for a reason. So now let's talk about working with teachers and staff. At the school that I just, I'm now director emeritus. Makes me sound very old. Right before COVID, we had 355 kids in our child care center. And we had about 75 staff. That's a lot of teachers. It's a lot of personalities. And if I can just be so bold, it's a lot of PMSing. We had chocolate in the office. If we ran out of chocolate, we were totally screwed. So I'm going to give you what I've learned. I am going to imagine that you also have your own tips and tricks as well. But first and foremost, you have to love your employees. And I don't mean just like, I mean you got to love them. They don't have to be friends with you. They don't have to go out at night with you. As a matter of fact, I made it a habit of never going out individually with my staff, with the exception of one, because before I ever came to work at that child care center, she had been there already for like 20 years, and she was my mom's best friend, so I saw her socially. And that was a little awkward too. But you have to really love them. As I was telling somebody before, if I wouldn't put my own child or grandchild in that person's classroom, they can't work for me. I have to feel, because you're only going to be as good as your weakest link. I talk in some of my other lectures about this, but I guess it's worth putting here too. If you settle on mediocrity, your program will be mediocre. If any aspect at all of your program is anything other than what you consider to be excellence, you are only going to be as good as your weakest link, because that's what people are going to talk about in Carline. That's what they're going to talk about in the park. Oh yeah, I like that preschool, ABC preschool, but you know, I don't like this one teacher. So if you go there, just make sure you're not in that person's class. The way people spoke about our child care, and I say our child care center, was, oh my God, any teacher you get is amazing. Because I let parents choose which class they wanted to go into. Crazy, right? I let parents choose any one of the 4 2-year-olds, the 4 3-year-olds, the 5 4-year-old classes. They could pick whichever one they wanted. And if it ever got to a point where there was a class that wasn't requested, that was my fault. Do you understand? That was my fault. I did something wrong. So I was able to get to a point where every class was equally requested. It was amazing. But again, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to have teachers that everybody loves, and then you have to trust them. I want you to think, any of you know, or any of you married to, or maybe you were in a previous life, a lawyer? No, I'm serious. Imagine if you have a law firm, right? And you hire another lawyer to come in. Does the lawyer who did the hiring sit and watch that lawyer all day long? Or do they give them an office and say, here, go be a lawyer? In early childhood, we have a dichotomy, because we have, on one end, people like me who say, I trust you, I hired the best. And by the way, I'm going to show you how I hire as well. And you have people who say, oh, I'm going to watch everything you do. That pencil needs to be there. That crayon needs to be there. And you have to teach this like this. What you're doing is you're pigeonholing people. And then we wonder why we have a 40 to 60% turnover rate. They're not going to get much more money, I promise you, unless there's an exception in your neighborhood. They are going where they feel more appreciated. So you've got to trust them as well. So these are definitions from psychology of healthy and strong relationships. Do you have this with your staff? And do your staff feel this? Do they feel supported? Do they feel that they have independence? Do they feel appreciation? And I'll show you how to do that as well. It's a long workshop, we're going to keep going. And by the way, again, you've got the QR code, you can get all of this. But I want you to think about this. How honest and how open are you with staff? By the way, my staff was able to even see my budget.
Penny.
There was nothing to hide. If you're a smart person, you know what tuition is, you know what you make, You know how much snack costs? You can put 2 and 2 together and figure out what the budget pretty much is for any child care center. It's not a secret. But how much control and power do I have over that budget? I'm working in that classroom every day for anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to 8 hours a day. Do I have any control over what's put into my room? Would you let somebody come and buy the sheets and the food for your house? Think about that for a minute. How much independence do you give them? And so I told you how I hire my teachers. This is how I do it. And this is actually, this was life-changing for me. And I'll tell you why. Again, complete transparency in my child care center. So level 1 were people who were either brand new to the field or new-ish, maybe had some units, didn't have any units, just fresh off high school, or somebody who had a different career and is switching around. So they're level 1. Level 1 makes anywhere from minimum wage in my state to $2 more of minimum wage, depending on where they are in that level of 1. But I'll show you again how I get there. Level 2 is what we would all think of as a teacher's assistant or a teacher in training. If my lead teacher is out sick, this person could take over that class for a day or 2 or even a week, but nobody's calling them the lead teacher. They know that somebody is coming back or somebody's being replaced. So there is a very clear definition of this, but I even have teachers that I labeled 2.5, right? Because you can handle the class for a month even when somebody's on maternity leave. I got you, I trust you. Level 3 is a lead teacher. This is the person that parents say, I want her class, or I want his class, and I have male teachers as well. These are people who have to have, in my state, a child development permit. And I'll tell you something that I could afford, not everybody can afford, but we can talk privately about how you can do something like I did. My level 3 have to be qualified for exempt employee status in the state of California. So exempt employee status means 3 things. Number 1, it means that they have to be 75% responsible for the operation of the class. Now there can be 2 of them in a class, they work together, but they have to be responsible for the operation of the class. I don't want to have to come in and micromanage you. Number 2, they have to have the California Child Development Permit, which means that they have 24 units in early childhood. They've got the adult supervision class, because they have to then train or mentor the level 1s and level 2s in their classroom. And number 3, they make twice minimum wage times 40 hours a week for the state of California. It's a lot of money, and I know it. But again, I'm going to give you a salary scale today too. You can do it a different way. Level 4 is someone who now not only mentors the teachers in their room, but they are also now looked upon as mentors for teachers in other rooms, either the same age category or a different age category, and we label them as a mentor teacher. In fact, when there are conferences like this, etc., we encourage them also to do presentations and things like that. And then level 5 is someone who has proven absolutely unbelievably useful to our center, and they also share administrative responsibilities. Oh, you want to practice being an administrator? Great. What do you want to do? Tell us what you see. There's a hole here, and you tell us. So I had a teacher. Her name is Tara. She doesn't work. She actually moved out of the state. And for years, she was our extracurricular coordinator. So she would help coordinate like dining with dad and parent and me and all kinds of other stuff that we did, and we paid her for it. She brought in the money. We had the money to pay her for it. I have somebody who's in charge of just procuring materials. When teachers run out of materials, they go to Ellen, teacher Ellen, and Ellen's in charge of a budget, and she procures the materials for the teachers. It's a lot easier for them to ask Ellen than to ask me for materials. And if she doesn't have the money in the budget, it's a lot easier for me, for Ellen to say no, than for me to say no. And I've got lots of these administrators. And by the way, the average lifespan, I will say, of somebody employed at our center is about 24 years. We can't get rid of them. They don't leave us. So, how do you work with your teachers? The hardest thing for a human being to do is change. If a human could change, you would never see a doctor or a nurse smoking outside of a hospital, because they know better than anybody. but old habits are hard to break. So imagine now you've gone to this amazing workshop on play, or you've gone to this amazing workshop on the block area, and you go to your staff and you say, hey, we're going to change our program a little bit. We're going to be more play-based, or we're going to have more blocks. You can't do it that way. Change is hard. You have to actually bring them in and say, I'm curious. It's called appreciative inquiry. I'm curious. I went to this workshop at NAUIC, and it gave me some research and information about play-based programs, and I'd like to share it with you and then hear what you all think. There are going to be some teachers who say, finally, and they will help advocate for you. And then the other side, you're going to have some teachers who say, yeah, that's great, but when they go back to their room, they're going to do the same thing they've always done for the last 10 years. So you've got to work with them, develop them, nurture them, and support them in that growth. Focus on positive feedback and reflection, coaching, not killing. That's important. I have to tell you, and I speak for myself here, but I'm sure I speak for a lot of you in here. I'm very sensitive. I know I come out as the, bossy bee, but inside I'm actually pretty mush, and my feelings and my ego get injured very, very easily. And as a result, I also tend to surround myself with people who feed that ego, make me feel good about myself. I've had a really rough 3 years, and I need people around me who support me in that way. When you are coaching and mentoring, it's again a lot easier to say you're changing, but you're going to break somebody's spirit. And not only that, but if I break your spirit, you're going to go tell her. And she's going to tell her, and pretty soon I've got a gang of people who hate me and don't like working for me, and they will undermine me. So make sure that you do that. Model the best practices yourself. I'm going to show you some more stuff. And it's already 8:30. Oh my God. So I had a rough year. This is me. I get it. Congratulations. I just finished 3 years of chemo. So, June 27th, I rang the bell. And I have to tell you, I have a family that is envious. Like, I have just an amazing family. But most of my day is spent at work and with colleagues. And so when the director or the owner falls and something happens, here is where your investment in your community pays off. One of the things that we don't do well in our child care centers that I've noticed is we don't give appropriate, authentic, formal feedback. In business they do. In regular businesses they have quarterly meetings. I have a daughter who worked at Google, and every quarter she had to meet certain benchmarks, and she got this huge assessment, and she knew where she was thriving and she knew where she was not thriving, and she knew what she had to do to get better. And so we have to do a better job, because I'd like to know how my director thinks about me. And if you hire the right people, they also want to grow. Most of them don't want to be a level 1 forever. Many of them want to get to level 2, level 3. Some of your staff have aspirations. So this is the first page of I'll show you a couple of pages, but it's a very thick document. That's why I don't Xerox them. You guys can get a hard copy emailed to you. So this is what it looks like. And if you'll notice, I'll show you how to use it so you don't have to, but again, you can call me. So there are about 10 sections to this. This one is simply understanding children. And the U means, they suck. The E means they're excellent, and then there's everything in the middle. I wouldn't say that to a teacher, but and none of my teachers are here, because I don't run a preschool anymore. But if you notice, this is very, very succinct. Now, why are there 2 columns? Because this can be done one of 2 ways. Either, if they're a level 1 or 2, they're level 3, 4, or 5 in their classroom can do this with them. So they do it first. Everybody has to do it first on their own. You want to see, because here's the thing. You want to know if somebody is self-aware. They have to know where their own strengths and weaknesses are. If they know, I'll tell you where we go with that. If they don't know, then you either have to help them get to that self-awareness, or you have to cut them off. You don't want somebody working with you who's not self-aware, because somebody who's self-aware knows how they make children feel, knows how they make parents feel, because they have that empathy. They also have that awareness. If they don't have the self-awareness, it's It's not a great, I'm just telling you it's not a great employee. The other way this can be done is they can do it together, and they rate first, when they first get hired, let's say in November or December, right after a few months, and then at the end of the year. And then what you do, and I'll show you just one, I think I have one other, teacher-parent interactions. I've got like, it's a whole slew. I created this actually for a practicum course that I was teaching at Cal State LA. I was like, oh, I can use this in the preschool, so I tweaked it a little, and it's been spread all over the country. I have it on Facebook, I have it everywhere. But the point of this is that teachers have to know, like some level 1 teachers don't even know what a gate conference is. Those are simply the 1-minute conversations we have at the door when you're picking up or dropping off your kid or at the car line. Those are not formal parent meetings. Those are 2 different things, and how do you handle those? So you either do them twice a year or you do them with different people, but either way, you've got to have 2 columns, because you want to see that from the first time they were assessed to the second time, 6 months or 8 months later, that there's change. Positive, in the positive, change. And you celebrate those changes. It doesn't have to be across the board. I can't fix everything about me in one day, but you want to see, and you celebrate those successes. There's a really great book called Rosie Revere Engineer. Any of you know that? Am I speaking to you right now? And she has this great, great Aunt Rose, and she says, oh my God, I failed Aunt Rose when I built this airplane. And Aunt Rose goes, no, you were amazing, because it did what it was supposed to do at first, and then it crashed, the plane crashed. It's a whole story. You gotta get Rosie Revere Engineer. And then you celebrate those little successes. You build upon those little successes with those teachers, and then they stay with you. Because we love when people nurture us. I also hand these out when they have these little successes. I get little cans of soda or water, whatever it is that I know that person likes. I might even buy them at Starbucks, and I put a little sign on it that says success is measured by the can, not the cannot. Do you know how much, if you go to like Smart and Final and you get a case of soda, you know how much each can costs? 30 cents. Do you know how much this is worth? Invaluable. I've got teachers who have saved those cans, never opened, and they keep them in their room. Those little tiny things, those little golden nuggets, if you will, make their day. They go home and they tell their kids. When I run into their kids at the store, they're adult kids, and they're like, oh my God, you made my mom's day today. I'm like, really? What did I do? I don't even remember. So what do we also know, and this is important, there were studies that were done about people who would likely be in the teaching profession in 2 years. We know that there's a lot of turnover, but most of them actually want to stay, 33% for sure. And if you take the somewhat likely, you now have over 50% of the people want to stay in the field of early childhood. Not only that, but if you do these things that I'm showing you and that you probably know how to do as on your own, intrinsic and altruistic motivations strengthen over time. So I'm not giving you the whole study here, but basically it's if you help strengthen their practices, if you help them love being in the profession, if you help celebrate those little nuggets every day, every week, whatever, they are going to stay in the field. They might not stay with you, those are other issues you might have, but they are going to stay in the field. So, what do most couples fight about? And what are the biggest complaints that teachers have? Number one is abusive directors. You might not even realize how you are offending somebody. You might not even know it, but the number one complaint is abusive directors. Number two is inappropriate or unfair assignments. I will tell you, they don't do it anymore, so I can probably use a name. USC called me in to do a consultation. They wanted me to do a 360 analysis of their child care centers because they were failing miserably and they couldn't understand why. The director at the time, this is years and years ago, the director at the time believed that their program was amazing and that she was the best director since sliced bread. So I went in and I talked to the teachers privately. She didn't like that. But I talked to the teachers privately and I came to find out that if you were absent without what she thought was just cause, or if you came late too often, your punishment was to go work in the toddler class. I want that to sink in for a minute. Your punishment was to go work in the toddler class. I didn't even see you walk in. Can you just stand up? That's one of my wing people. I talked about you. I didn't even know that you came in. But that's Sharon. And you just say hi, because I love you. That's Sharon. Sharon will put me in my place when I deserve it. And I love her for it. Anyways, but that was their punishment. So not only did you have the teachers who were being punished, hate the director, you had the toddler teachers, all hating the director. And her answer to me when I approached her was, well, what else could I do? Carolyn Dweck would call her someone with a fixed mindset. She wasn't even looking for alternatives to solve her problem. Number 3, inadequate supplies. Imagine a doctor, a surgeon walking into the operating theater and not having gloves, a mask, a scalpel, and a nurse. Right? Teachers have to have the supplies they need to get their job done. And if you don't know how to do that, give them control over the budget you're spending and let them worry about it. Let them put into a hierarchy what they need, or add more money to the budget. What time is it? Okay, I'm still good. Ad hoc approaches to discipline. You have got to, and again, we're going to go back now to the vision. Right now, back to the vision and the philosophy of your program. What do you do about teachers who come late? Teachers who do X, Y, Z. It has to be spelled out ahead of time. It can't be, oh my gosh, you came in late 3 times in a row, that's it, go home, I don't want you here today. What? Where did that come from? Or I'm docking your pay today, you're docking my pay, you didn't dock my pay the other 2 days. You can't do this stuff on the fly. You can't. It's not appropriate. Insufficient time with colleagues. How many of you don't even care as much about the workshops as you do about the people you're with and you're talking to and sharing? Me, I'm going to be honest, I am loving being with my colleagues here and just chatting with people. In the exhibit hall, I walked through the whole thing yesterday and I bought not one thing because I was so busy talking to many of the people you see standing in the back. I just love connecting with people. Insufficient opportunities to grow. I want to make more money. The only way to make more money is to improve my practice. You're not giving me any resources or help to improve my practice. There's no professional development at our center. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many times Lindsay and I, or Sharon and I have gone and they're like, oh my God, this is the best workshop. We haven't had one in years. Really? Do you know how many advances in early childhood there have been in the last 12 months? Huge, huge. Lack of being in control of decision-making process, we kind of talked about that already. The lack of appreciation, we sort of touched on that as well. Insufficient time to adjust to a classroom. Raise your hand if you were a teacher hired and put the first day of work right into the class. Look at this. My daughter, who I told you worked at Google, 3-month onboarding. No, that's Google, I get it. They speak a different language, it's weird there. But how about just an acclimation period of a day or 2? Just today, I'm paying you, you're on the payroll. I want you to go in today and just observe. Now that's not always possible, especially with today's turnover, which by the way, turnover, there is no teacher shortage in this country. If anybody tells you that, you slap them. I'll tell you why. It is destroying our field by saying there's a teacher shortage. I'll tell you why. If I pay you enough money, you'll come work for me, right? It's a shortage of money. And when we say there's a teacher shortage, we think, oh, I just need to find more people who are willing to work for minimum wage. That's not the case. COVID didn't take people out of our field. It showed them what else there is besides our field. That's all it did. So when we say there's a teacher shortage, we are cutting our legs off. We are completely handicapping the people in our field. Why is it that as soon as these kids get to kindergarten, those teachers are making $60, $70, $80, $90,000 a year? I just got asked to work in the New Jersey Newark School District, $100,000 a year to be a pre-K teacher. Oh my, yeah, I just moved to New Jersey, it's great. I've got deer in my backyard, it's so crazy. But now if somebody told me I have to watch out for ticks, I don't even know what a tick looks like. But I will tell you I'm scared. So we have to do that, and then number 10, there is too much oversight for those of you that are well educated. I don't want somebody, I had a job at a university not too long ago, and my dean, I don't want to ever be a dean, I don't like being stuck in meetings, but my dean would always put me down and tell me what to do and how to do it, and I know how to do my job. I'm a little older than 20, I've been around, and I gotta tell you, the day that I got a new dean, I celebrated it at that particular university, because I need somebody who understands I am going to screw up, I will. Did you know? I'm human. That is the definition of being human. We screw up. But at the end of the day, I don't want you to only notice that. You know, I say this a lot. When we go to prison, we are identified by our crime. When we go to school, we are identified by our special need. I don't want to go to my job and be identified by my faults. That is why we have so much depression, why we have so many problems in this country, because we first identify you by what's wrong with you. How about turning that around and identifying people first by what's right with them? There you go. But what I love, and here's why, I don't know if you get this, but it's a rock. It's not going to become a ruler. If you try to break it into a ruler, it's going to shatter. And if you try to make the ruler into a rock, it's going to crumble. We cannot try to change a person. We have to try to help improve them. So we can make more lines on the ruler. We can kind of, sand off a little bit of the rock if you want him a little smoother, but he's still going to always be a rock. Always. I want to tell you just about a school in New York, and again, you can go to this website on your own. It's the Equity Project Charter Middle School in New York. I believe now they even have they have elementary school. And this was started, by the way, this is groundbreaking stuff, because I learned about it in my doctoral program a few years ago. Their starting salary is $125,000 for a teacher. The teachers never leave, and you know why? So if you move and you want to work there, move to Jersey, it's cheaper, and then just go into the city to work there. Why did they do that? Because teachers really only teach for about 4 to 6 hours a day. Doctors and lawyers, engineers, they work 8 hours a day, minimum. So for the other 2 or 3 hours a day that you're not in the classroom, you are part of the administration. The administrative team is made up of maybe 1 or 2 people in the office and everybody else that works at the school. And they divide up the roles. So not only do you have an in on knowing exactly how that school operates, you are paid enough money that you will never leave. And it is one of the best programs in that entire area. Equity Project Middle School. Number 2, how many of you say, I'd like to support you, but you don't have any money in your budget to help pay for people's college courses, degrees? Do you ever even look to see if your state offers any kind of funding for your teachers to take classes or get degrees? How are you helping your teachers grow? What professional development do you offer? And how do you pay for that? So let's talk about paying for it for a minute. Our school was your traditional 10-month school year, 9-month school year with a couple weeks off here, a couple weeks off there, and then we'd have a summer camp and you'd pay separate. When I put it all together, I came up with, and I'll use a round number right now, $10,000. But I realized that if I broke down my monthly tuition and multiplied it by 12, I was actually at $12,000. That's a lot more money a year, right? I'm actually now making $12,000 per child instead of $10,000. So I moved to a 12-month school year. Yes, I had some teachers. I had 3 teachers who quit. They want their summers off, great. And I gave them 3 years notice that it was happening, by the way. It did not happen overnight. I gave them 3 years notice that it was going to happen. The parents, some of the parents left, but many more came. Why? I want you to think about this for a minute. As a teacher, it's a lot of work to break down your room and set it back up for summer camp. It's a lot more work to have a completely different group in the summer than you have during the school year. So you're only setting up once, you're only transitioning kids once, that's also. By the way, those of you that work with the babies and the twos, you all cannot go pee when you need to pee. You can't. And so you guys are the hardest working in the preschool. And so I now had, by the way, 350 kids times $2,000 more a kid. So you know what I did? I asked the teachers. I said, listen, I can make the ratios in your classroom better because we're going to be making so much money. How about if we go from 20 kids in a class and instead now we'll have 18 in a class? They're like, oh my God, that's going to make 2 kids. Makes a world of difference. So now they saw that I was reinvesting in them in some ways, and I was able to put money into a education line for the teachers. I only have a certain amount of money, first come, first served. The ones who really want it are going to ask for it first. You can use the money however you want. You want to come to the NAYC conference? Here's how much we'll give you. You want to take a college class? Great. But remember I showed you that assessment? The end result of that assessment is they have what I call a professional development plan. And at the end of the year, every 1 and 2 met with a 3 or 4 or 5, and every 3, 4, or 5 met with me or my co-director, and they would have a professional development plan. Okay, where do you want to improve next year? Well, I'd really like to improve on how to talk to parents more. Great, do you want to take a class? Do you want to go to a conference? What do you want? And then the next year we'd say, okay, this is what you wanted to improve on. How did that go for you? And then we would keep going, supporting their growth over and over. Okay, and I'm actually going to come back to that. This is my salary scale. I don't know how to do slides that well, but I will tell you how it works. The salary scale, there's no names on here, but the salary scale at the very end on the left is the hourly rate for one of the school years and their start date. So that way duration is how long they've been with me. That counts for, so let me backtrack. This year I can afford to give, if everybody gets really great, I can afford to give everybody across the board a 5% salary increase. And I tell them that at the beginning of the school year. 5%, that's huge, right? It doesn't really cost me that much. Why? So how many years you've been with me is a portion of that 5%. Then moving over is their level. So you'll see like 2.5, 2, 3, 2, 4, whatever. That level also accounts for a part. So if you are a 1, you're not going to get that big of a raise because you're not that valuable to me. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just telling you that you don't have the units, you don't count the ratios if you're level 1. I need you to get to a 2, but they, oh, is that Avital? No, that's not Avital. I thought that was Avital. My other partner in crime. I don't know where she is. Then the next one is courses. How many courses, not units, but again, you can tweak this. How many courses did you take this year? That also accounts for a portion of the 5%. By the way, this is an interactive Excel sheet. So as your numbers change, it calculates everything for you. I'm giving this to you. You guys are going to love this. Then it's performance. So if you see, I've already rated some people on their performance. We use that performance evaluation, and they get rated up to a 5. It's weighted, how much everything is weighted, and then you see the percentage of the raise. So if you see, some people got like 1.96, some people got 4.83. Everything is weighted on there. So I was not giving 5% across the board, but you had the potential for it. What your new salary is, how many hours a week, and what your paycheck is. And my payroll every 2 weeks at that year was $81,000 and change. Now, the beauty of this is that one of the things I hated the most was, oh, you want to raise, and negotiating with people individually, and then they go back and tell their coworkers, I got 5%. I took myself out of the equation. This is how we are doing raises. I am not playing favoritisms because I love you all. I have you all here because you were chosen, because you are the best of the best for the position here. My job is to help you get to 5%, but I can't give you 5%. Only you can give yourself 5%. And even when they say, oh, just give me a little bit more, I can't. This is out in the open. If anybody wants to know what anybody else makes, this is out in the open, it's transparent. Now, I don't go and advertise what people make, but you know sometimes things get leaked. I have to be able to justify what anybody in that center is making because I don't want animosity. And so you know what? I was known as a tough director, but very fair director. I wasn't the owner. So, salary scale. And again, when you get this, if you want to know how to use it, I'm happy to share with you. Okay. Where can we find the money to fund higher salaries? How can we use money to retain teachers? So again, going back, allowing teachers control over budget items. Let them see what the budget is. Making the salary scale very clear and available, and reallocating money. So I was spending about, my budget at the time, this is 10 years ago, my budget at the time was $185,000 for materials, like glue, paper, stuff like that. I took a staff meeting, my entire staff, and I said, listen, I have $185,000 that I use a year for materials, consumable materials. I am willing to tell you that I'm going to keep that numbers the same every year going forward because I have to project budgets for the board. Barring any huge increase in inflation, which we have to adjust for, I am going to keep that money steady. For any amount that we don't spend in the next few years, every year, on supplies, I'm going to put it back into making the percentage of the raises higher. I got a round of applause. In 10 years, it took us 10 years, because again, it's hard for people to change. But we are now pretty much a zero waste school. And my teachers now make, well, they're not mine anymore, they're Avital's, but the teachers there make the highest paid teachers in preschool working 6 hours a day, make about $95,000 a year. Those are my level 5s. But I was able to reallocate money in the budget from supplies. I'll tell you why. And again, I'm not here to diss anybody. If you go to a preschool classroom and there's tons of stuff, it's kind of like your clothes closet. Tons of clothes. And yet you wear the same 5 or 6 outfits every week. Let's be real. The kids need you more than they need a lot of stuff from Lakeshore. You need a great set of blocks. You need a great set of art materials, but even art materials, we use recycle, reduce, reuse. We use a lot of cardboard boxes. I don't know if they're here this year in the exhibit hall, but if they're not, there's a great product called 3 Ducks Design, which are different sized connectors for Amazon boxes. You collect those Amazon boxes and the kids build cities. It's amazing. So reallocate the money. Figure out ways where you don't change the overall budget, you just change where the money is. If you provide snack, great. Have class representatives provide snack on Fridays. Each Friday, somebody else will be a snack host and they'll bring snack from home. And tell the parents, by the way, I'm going to tell you how to tell the parents. That's part of this workshop too. Tell the parents we are reallocating money. And have a really serious discussion with anybody and everybody. There's a great website called Grant Watch. It's $17 a week. Just get it for 1 week and see all the grants available in your area or that you guys can apply for money. How many of you live anywhere near a Trader Joe's? Trader Joe's will give you $25 worth of stuff or more for free every 6 months. You just have to bring a letter on letterhead from your preschool. I think it's like 4 weeks in advance of any event you have, and they'll give you $25 worth of stuff. It doesn't sound like a lot, but you know what? You can get $25 worth of cans of soda and surprise your staff. Okay, next one. So I keep saying I'm over 20, but I'm a lot over 20. And when I need to fix this, I go to one of my kids or my 5-year-old grandchild. My 5-year-old grandchild knows how to run my phone better than I do. And so you have to learn how to leverage technology and apps and all of those things. So I'm going to tell you a story. And my kids are here, so I can talk about them. I had an app, because I was like, okay, I'm going to try and use an app to run my preschool, and it wasn't working. and I didn't know how to fix it. So I called the people from the app, and the machine said, we will return your call within 7 business days. And I said, oh, hell no! Do you not know Tamar Andrews, instant gratification queen? Not only that, but I have 75 teachers and I have 350 families and 700 parents. If this isn't working, I'm like, so we went to paper and pencil. And I went to one of my kids, he's standing actually in the back of the room. And I said, oh my God, Daniel, can you please fix my app? And he said, Mom, this app is not good. Josh, his brother, Josh and I will just make you one. So I was that mom that let them game on computers in their room all the time, because 4 kids, full-time job, it worked. Oxygen mask rule, protect yourself first. But they knew how to fix the app. What did they do? Mom will just make you one. So they made me an app. It did Carline. They called it Carline. It made Carline for me. And I am a official California mentor director. I go up and down the state and I mentor other directors. And I said, oh, wait, 1 second. There's something going on at my school. And they're like, what are you using? I said, oh, my kids made me an app. Really? We need an app. And long story short, they ended up sitting in my preschool for about 6 months, asking parents, asking teachers what they wanted. And now they have an official booth at the NAYC conference. So that's them. They are called Playground, and they are all over the country. And as a mom, I talk about you. The best thing for me is my 2 boys work together. I love the fact that my sons work together. Yeah, and they have a great team. And so they have a booth if any of you are looking for an app. But I will tell you, the app changed my life. Why? Because especially I'm in chemo, I wanted to see kind of what's going on in my center. I wanted to see how many kids were in school. I wanted to see the notices, all the videos and the pictures and the information that was being sent out by teachers to the parents and everything else. And I really didn't have the strength to chase those parents who weren't paying tuition. That's like, when you're in, I don't know if you've ever been yourself or if you've known anybody going through chemo. There's something called chemo fog. And that's just not what I wanted to do. By leveraging the app, because at first we weren't doing it to make payments. And I said, can this take payments? Like, yeah, Mom, don't you know what the app does? I was like, no, because I'm over 20. I still don't even know everything that the app does, I'll have to tell you. But it started collecting tuition for me, and all of a sudden, the higher-ups at this organization and everything were like, oh my God, what am I going to do all day? Because all we used to do was tell Tamar which parents weren't paying tuition. The other thing, Instacart. I cannot tell you how invaluable Instacart has been to me. I used to be the rag, or Avital would be the rag. Oh my God, I'm in the middle of a cooking project and a teacher borrowed my flour and I don't have flour and I'm with the kids and I'm stuck and the parents are coming today. Instacart. We came to the NAYC conference, the university I work for, we have a booth. And I don't know if you know this, but NAEYC does not provide you with the carpet on the floor, but you have to have a carpet, or the tables, or the chairs, or anything else in your booth. And if you get it from the NAEYC vendor, it's like $2,000. Do you know if you come to my booth, we have a carpet, we have chairs from Camping World, from Instacart. We were waiting outside, Instacart delivered absolutely everything for me. It costs a little bit more to use Instacart unless you have like their free delivery. I ordered it so much I get free delivery. But I will also tell you, just as a grandma, I'm 20 as a grandma. My daughter will sometimes be with all 3 grandkids. She has a 5, a 4, a 5, a 3, and a 2-year-old. And she'll say, oh my gosh, Mom, I'm like literally in the middle of the bathtub with the kids and I ran out of milk. Can you Instacart it for me? I have the free delivery. And I will send to New Jersey, wherever I am in the world, I will send her milk delivered to her house in like 20 minutes. So Instacart, and by the way, Instacart knows that I put them on here, and so they sent me this. I thought it was really cool because it made my slides look really nice. Spotify, also an incredible app. Talk about being on the fly. All of a sudden, you didn't even know that the weather was going to change. It starts thundering and lightning outside, and now we've got games. If you make playlists, you can use them across your organization. You can share them with other preschools. All you've got to do is, whatever. But you make these playlists for absolutely anything. You have transition songs. By the way, transition songs are the best, because transitions for some kids is a very stressful time of day. If you have those problems, go hit Lindsay up, because she's the pediatric OT. She'll tell you what to do. But any of these things, transitions become so much easier because songs make us want to move. Cleanup time, etc. Lumina, just wave your hand, Mikey. You want to come up for a second? So, Mikey and his friend Christoph, I have an issue. I also do STEM workshops across the country. If any of you are in Brentwood, Tennessee, I'll be there tonight doing a STEM workshop for these folks. But one of my big issues is that I don't like screen time for young children. But we also know that parents are going to give their kids the screen. There's a thing in screen time, I don't know if you've heard 20/20, that every 20 minutes, if you're looking at a screen, you're supposed to look 20 feet away from you in order to keep your eyes from getting bug-eyed and ruining the muscles and stuff in your eyes. So the 20/20 rule. So what these guys did is they've created an app. Why don't you tell them? I don't know what to describe it.
I don't know if I've ever talked into a microphone before, so so Tamara's one of our amazing advisors, and she's been really helpful for us. But
Wait, I need cheese.
she's very nice. But yeah, so we just have an app, and the point is to utilize digital and physical components to give kids the benefit of digital learning. And as I said, parents are going to use digital apps. We're currently testing, and so I really want to talk to everyone. If you're willing, I'll be at Tamara's booth throughout the day, and at 12:30 I'll do a demo of the product. But we're really testing. We're still trying to get out all the bugs and make sure that it's the best product it can be for kids. But it doesn't use Bluetooth, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no in-app purchases, no ads, so we're really trying to cater to parents and make sure that they have the best learning experience. And we use styluses to help kids get their fine motor skills and learn how to write properly, and figurines that you buy in person, so you don't have to buy the app, it just comes with it. And yeah, that's us, and I would love to talk to anyone who might have feedback for us. And as I said, I'll be at booth 2128, and at 12:30 I'll do a demo, so please come by, and if you have any advice, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
So finally, something on a screen that has figurines, so you can, so that's how Lumina works. There's your little slide. Okay, invest in your customers. I'm going to tell you that if the United States government worked as well as the preschool that I just retired from, we would be in such a good place. This is going to be a different, kind of like a paradigm shift for many of you. My office and the people that worked in my office, we were the executive branch. The owners, if you work at a faith-based, the clergy, if you work underneath like a larger organization, they would be your, sorry, 1 second. They would be your judicial branch, and I made my parents the legislative branch. My Congress, if you will. And the way that this works is as follows. I put out a call every year in August for all those kids that are enrolled in my school. I put out a call, who wants to be part of our Preschool Advisory Committee, the PAC. And if you are part of the PAC, you are going to help vote on the budget. You are going to help us hire teachers. And I'll tell you why also. You are going to help us run the preschool. Remember I told you that it's better to have everybody be owners instead of renters? That goes for your families as well. Families will not leave a child care center where they feel they have an investment of their time and their energy, where they feel appreciated, where they feel trusted. You hear the same things happening over and over again, right? The same themes. And so we meet once a month. I bring them my budget. I have them help me hire teachers. Why? If you don't like a teacher, it's not me that did the hiring, it was me and the PAC. Not only that, but many of us, and I know many of you, so many of us have gone through a teacher quitting 1 year for whatever reason. And the parents loved this teacher. And oh my God, how am I going to replace this teacher? And it must be your fault, the director. So what happens in PAC stays at PAC. These are secrets. We cannot share them, but I know they do a little bit. So only PAC, who is sworn in the cone of silence, knows that, yes, this teacher left, but it was because of X, Y, and Z. I don't give them all the details, but now they know it wasn't me. And now they're part of the hiring process. So when other parents are saying, oh my God, did you hear? Jenny quit. All of a sudden, it must be because of Tamar. They're like, listen, I'm on PAC, and I know it's not because of Tamar. I can't tell you why. I'm sworn to secrecy, but trust me, we're finding a great teacher. All of a sudden now I have people doing my spin doctoring for me, and my preschool stays intact. It stays healthy. And it has to stay, yes?
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
About this.
I don't have to bring the microphone to you.
I talk loud. If
Okay.
you can't hear me, tell me, but I'm loud. We have a PAC in our school, and our problem with our PAC is that they seem to overstep. So while I appreciate all of that, they seem to think that they have more say than the actual director, and they don't like any decisions that the director makes, and so they're constantly at odds. How do you stop that or work with that to make it work for you?
Great. Here's the first thing I would do, not knowing more details. Let's see, your name's Natasha. Let's just say that Natasha is a member of the PAC, and she's always contradicting me. Natasha, you're a member of PAC, and I've never really gotten to know you. I have a little money in my budget. I'm going to take you to lunch. Tell me when's a good day. And, keep your enemies closer. No, seriously. Maybe there's something going on with Natasha that I didn't know about. Maybe there's an issue. You know what? I always want to, again, I always look at people in the more positive light than the negative light. So I'm gonna take a sidestep for a minute, if you will. And if you never remember anything from this workshop, remember this. And then one video I'm gonna show you. I call it Man on the Bus. And if you work at my preschool where I was at, or anybody with me, you know that when I say man on the bus, you know what I mean. You are a passenger on a bus, and you notice that the bus comes to a stop at a stop sign, and a man gets on the bus, and he puts money in for him and his children are running amok on the bus. They're knocking into things. They're horrible. Like, these kids are horrible. And you look at that father kind of glaringly, like, you hope he has ESP, because in your mind you're saying, get control of your stupid kids. We're going to do this again. The bus comes to a stop. Your window is open this time. You notice that it stops in front of a hospital. And as the bus comes to a halt, you see this man hugging a woman in a white coat with a stethoscope around her neck. And you hear him say, thank you, I know you did everything you could for her. He gets on the bus, pays for him and his kids are running amok, and he just sits there. I will bet you that your perception of this man either changed or didn't change, but you have a bigger heart towards him right now. Man on the bus. Anytime somebody is out to get you, or you have feelings like not the best feelings towards somebody, I want you to think man on the bus. And that way, when you come and do it again, and you get to know Natasha better, and you know what's happening in her life, you might have a completely different perspective of who Natasha is. And my first sentence at lunch would be, I'm so glad you came today because you're part of PAC and I could not live without PAC. Right? I'm starting off on the right foot. Maybe she has something against me. Maybe I did something to offend her and I don't even know it. So somewhere during lunch I will bring up, we seem to be at odds a lot at the PAC meetings. I'm wondering, first of all, I want to apologize for anything I might have ever done to offend you. I offend people a lot. I apologize really well. I do. I have learned to apologize. Well, here, I have another saying. Mess up, fess up, clean up. By the way, if you ever follow me on LinkedIn, it's free. I put little videos of all these things, little snippets that I come up with. Anyways, so, you raised a great, Jill, right?
Yeah.
You raised a great question, which is, what do you do when people are at odds with you? I would also say one of the first things you have to look at is, maybe it's me, right? Maybe it's me.
Was your center nonprofit or for-profit?
Nonprofit. nonprofit, but I've also worked for profits. I left a school. I was consulting to a school in California for about 6 months. That was a for-profit. It didn't fit my philosophy, and so I quit. That's the other thing. Again, vision. If you're not sharing the same vision, philosophy, ideology as the place you're working in, not a great place, because you're always going to be like this. So investing in your customers. The other thing too, remember I gave you that little question at the beginning about what amount of time you spend in school? I want you to consider the following 3 kinds of people that might be at your school. You have people like me. I will always come help you. I'll always be there. I'll be there for anything you need, and I'm going to be vocal. Great. But then you also might have the people who I really want to be part of everything, but I might not speak the language, so I'm embarrassed. I might not be as educated as everybody, so I'm embarrassed. I might not look like everybody else. I might be embarrassed. I might be shy, so I'll be embarrassed. Or I don't know how to ingratiate myself at all into a group. How do you activate those families? How do you find out those ones that want to participate and might not? Where are you standing at drop-off and pickup if you're the director or the owner? Are you in an office? How often do you walk around the classrooms and just go, oh my God, I love that. Can I take a picture? Oh my gosh, you're doing it. I overheard the conversation that you had with this little child, but also with the parents. You know, Natasha, you're a great mom. By the way, nobody wakes up in the morning saying, I hope I'm the worst mother, parent, or teacher in the world. We all want to be great. We do. We all want to be great. Not all of us have the tools. And not only that, some of us, not me, might have parents-in-law that knock us down. Right? We really care how our spouse's parents think about us. Natasha, I want to tell you, you're a great mom. And you got to find something. You know, I saw the lunch that you packed for Johnny today. That took a lot of time, right? Just little things. Or I saw the conversation you had as I was putting his seatbelt on in the car. You're just a great mom. Just little things like that. Wow, she noticed me. She saw me. And, you know, we're having a dinner, you know, in a couple weeks, and I'm looking for some people to help me in the kitchen. Do you want to come? Oh my God, of course, because now Tamar knows who I am, and she likes me. I don't want to go if I think Tamar doesn't like me, right? So how to make parents feel like owners instead of renters. So ongoing, consistent, engaging family events, lectures, trips, outings. It can even be just a hike to your local little mountain. A picnic at a park where everybody meets at the same time, right? There's this, if you didn't get the QR code, by the way, you can take a picture. There's my cell phone number, my email address. I am accessible. I make myself accessible.